The students of Professor Zoller's intergalactic engineering class stood in a semicircle, their eyes, some with slit pupils, others glowing with an unnatural light, fixed on the towering figure before them. The professor, a distinguished scientist from a Valian race, had been teaching at the Galactic University for over 2 centuries. His slender, elongated limbs moved with mechanical precision as he activated the holographic display in the center of the classroom. The image flickered briefly before stabilizing into a live projection of View 7, a planet renowned for its rich biodiversity and vast bodies of water, most of which were now suffering from severe pollution due to reckless industrialization. He turned to face the class, his multifaceted eyes scanning each student. "This will be your final examination," he announced, his voice reverberating through the room like a sequence of harmonic vibrations. "Your objective is simple. Design and implement a functional water filtration system to purify the contaminated lake near the Ander Research Facility. You have precisely 1 week to complete this task. Your results will determine your standing in this class, and, for some of you, your eligibility for graduation." The students, representing various advanced alien civilizations, exchanged confident glances. Many came from species that had mastered molecular restructuring, gravity-based filtration, or advanced nanopurification systems. They had spent their entire academic lives immersed in technology far beyond what most sentient beings could comprehend. Among them, Andy Carter, the only human in the class, stood silently at the back, arms crossed, studying the holographic projection of the polluted lake. The professor continued, his thin fingers gesturing toward the image. "The water is contaminated with industrial waste, chemical runoff, and biological pathogens. You will need to account for all variables: temperature fluctuations, bacterial mutations, and mineral imbalances. The solution must be self-sustaining, energy-efficient, and capable of long-term application." A tall student from the Drari species, his blue-scaled skin reflecting the holographic light, raised a hand. "Professor, are we allowed to use external energy sources?" "You may," Zoller responded, "but your efficiency will be factored into the assessment. Over-reliance on high-energy input is a sign of poor engineering." Several students began whispering among themselves, already formulating their designs. Some planned to use nanofiltration systems capable of breaking down molecular bonds, while others considered deploying microgravity chambers to separate pure water from pollutants. The challenge was daunting, but for the brightest minds of the Galactic University, it was nothing more than an intellectual exercise. Andy remained quiet, his mind already working through possibilities. He had grown up on Earth, where water purification had been a necessity for centuries. Unlike his classmates, who relied on sophisticated alien technology, he understood that sometimes the best solutions were the simplest ones. While the others focused on designing complex mechanisms, he considered a more fundamental approach. The professor's gaze locked onto him. "Mr. Carter, do you have a question?" Andy shook his head. "No, Professor. I just want to confirm, any method that achieves a goal is valid, correct?" "Correct," Zoller replied, tilting his head slightly. "But I would caution against primitive solutions. Simplicity does not always equate to efficiency." Andy smirked but said nothing. He had no intention of explaining his plan just yet. The professor clapped his hands together, signaling the start of the exam. "You are dismissed. Begin your research immediately. Resources are available in the laboratory, and you will have access to the university's fabrication units. I expect significant progress by the end of the first cycle." The students filed out of the classroom, their minds racing with ideas. Andy walked with measured steps, listening as the others discussed their strategies. A group of Zarkoni students, their crystalline bodies shimmering under the artificial light, debated the efficiency of atomic-level filtration. Another pair from the Tyrene species, beings whose neural networks operated at near-quantum speeds, calculated the probability of success for various purification methods in real time. None of them considered the possibility that the simplest, most natural solution might be the best one. Andy entered the research lab and activated his personal workstation. A holographic interface flickered to life, displaying a breakdown of the contaminants present in the lake. Heavy metals, synthetic toxins, organic decay, everything he had expected. But one element stood out. A form of alien bacteria had begun rapidly evolving in the polluted waters, adapting to consume and break down certain toxins. His eyes narrowed as an idea took shape in his mind. If he could modify and accelerate the bacteria's natural filtration process, he wouldn't just clean the lake. He could create a self-sustaining ecosystem capable of purifying entire bodies of water without external interference. He glanced at the other students. They were still immersed in their calculations, focused on building the most advanced technology possible. Andy grinned. He had always loved an underdog story, and this time he was going to prove that human ingenuity could outmatch even the most advanced civilizations in the universe. He leaned over his workstation, his fingers gliding across the holographic interface as he fine-tuned his research. His eyes flicked over the molecular breakdown of the alien bacteria he had discovered in the polluted lake. It was an anomaly, something that shouldn't have existed under such toxic conditions, yet it thrived. The more he examined it, the more he saw its potential. If he could manipulate its genetic structure, he could turn it into a natural purification system instead of relying on complex filtration devices like his classmates. A voice interrupted his concentration. "You're working with biological agents?" The question came from one of the Zarkoni students, a crystalline entity named Virix. His translucent form shimmered under the laboratory lights as he peered at Andy's screen. "That's an unconventional choice." Andy didn't bother looking up. "It's the most efficient one." Virix clicked his fingers together, producing a sound similar to glass striking metal. Biological systems are unreliable. They mutate, degrade, and become uncontrollable variables. A proper filtration device is predictable. Andy smirked. "That's what makes us better. It adapts, it fixes itself." Virix narrowed his glowing violet eyes. "If it fails, you'll have nothing to fall back on." Andy finally turned to face him. "If your tech fails, what's your backup plan?" The Zarkoni hesitated. That was the problem with high-tech solutions. They were rigid. If a nanofiltration unit malfunctioned, it needed repairs. If a gravity purifier overloaded, it became useless. But a biological system? It could evolve. It could persist, even if left unattended. Virix exhaled, his crystalline structure humming